Do you feel blame? Are you mad? Do you feel like wolves kebab right friends? Get friends.
In a time of love, music and revolution, one man's twisted vision led to a reign of terror that shocked the world. Let's dive into the dark corners of the 60s counterculture to uncover who really was Charles Manson. My name is Eric, and you're on Curiosity Corner. In the late 1960s, a man with piercing eyes and a swastika carved on his forehead sent shockwaves through America. Charles Manson, a man whose very name evokes images of brutality, manipulation, and madness. But who really was this man? How did he come to command such unwavering loyalty from his followers, leading them down a path of bloodshed and chaos? In this deep dive, we will uncover the life of Charles Manson, from his troubled beginnings to the notorious crimes that made him one of the history's most infamous criminals. As we dive in, ask yourself, was Manson the product of his environment, or was something inherently dark within him? And if you think you know Manson, prepare to think again. Born in 1934 in Cincinnati, Ohio, Charles Miles Manson's introduction to life was in the shadow of adversity. His teenage mother, Kathleen Maddox, was a drifter predisposed to drink, setting the stage for Manson's tumultuous childhood. With an absent father and a constantly changing landscape, Manson was introduced early to the world's harsh realities.
Tell me, if you could describe your childhood in a couple of sentences, how would you describe it?
I didn't have a childhood.
The alleys and hidden corners of cities became Manson's playground. While most children his age were navigating the difficulties of school and friendships, young Charles was already engaged in petty crimes. By 13, he had a rap sheet that included burglaries and armed robberies. These juvenile detentions weren't mere pit stops, but more indicative of a pattern that would continue into his adulthood. But beyond the criminal activities, what's more telling are the seeds of manipulation and deep-rooted defiance that were being sown. The reform schools and detention centers that tried to correct him only seemed to fuel his rebellious nature. The question then arises, were these early experiences sculpting Manson, or was something inherently sinister lurking within? As we journey into Manson's life, consider the dichotomy of nature versus nurture. In the next chapter, we'll explore how the young delinquent transitioned from petty criminal to a magnetic leader of a cult-like following. What drove him? And how did society, knowingly or unknowingly, play a role in his revolution? In the mid-1960s, the American counterculture movement was in full swing. Hippies with their free-loving spirit and anti-establishment ethos populated the landscapes of San Francisco and Los Angeles. It was against this backdrop that Charles Manson began to assemble his cult-like following, known as the Manson Family. But how did a man with a criminal past gather such a devout group around him? Manson used charisma, manipulation, and drugs to ensnare his followers. Many were young women, disenchanted with their previous lives, seeking purpose and belonging.
I don't want to take my time going to work. I got a motorcycle and a sleeping bag and 10 or 15 girls. What the hell I want to go off and go to work for?
To them, Manson appeared as a messiah, promising love, family, and enlightenment. He leveraged popular culture, notably the music of the Beatles, and twisted it to fit his narrative, indoctrinating his followers with a unique blend of apocalyptic prophecy. Yet, a darker reality lay underneath the veneer of communal living and spiritual quests. Manson was building an army, preying on the vulnerabilities of his followers, subjecting them to a regimen of psychological manipulation and ensuring their complete obedience. How do these individuals, many from ordinary backgrounds, become so deeply entrenched in Manson's twisted worldview?
I'm the king, man. I run the underworld, guy. I decide who does what and where they do it at.
The answers might surprise you. As we dive into the chilling philosophy Manson's preached, we will explore the length to which a human being can be influenced, manipulated, and ultimately driven to commit unspeakable acts. But what exactly was the Helter Skelter Manson spoke of so fervently, and how did it culminate in a series of events that would shock the world? Helter Skelter is a term many of us know, yet few truly understand the depths of its implication in the Manson's narrative. For the uninitiated, Helter Skelter wasn't just a Beatles song. For Manson, it was a prophecy, an impending apocalyptic war between races that he believed would consume America. But how did Manson derive such a malevolent interpretation from a pop song? You, dear viewer, might be listening to songs daily, deriving joy, sadness, or memories from them. Imagine for a moment someone taking your favorite tune and twisting it into a doctrine of doom. That's what Manson did. Drawing from the Beatles' White Album, Manson convinced his followers that hidden messages were calling them to action, and shockingly they believed him. But why? Were the 60s so tumultuous that such a drastic interpretation seemed plausible? Or was Manson's grip on his followers so tight that they believed anything he said? Here's where you, sitting comfortably, might feel a chasm between Manson's world and yours. But is it as wide as you think? Are we not all vulnerable to skewed interpretations in an era of fake news and misinformation? Soon, you'll see how Manson's distorted philosophy translated into action, how words from a song turned into a blueprint for murder. And as you continue watching, ask yourself, what beliefs do I hold that might be based on misinterpretations? It is a chilling thought, isn't it? It was the summer of 1969, and a series of gruesome murders would rock the City of Angels to its core. Over 2 nights, under his directive, Manson's followers committed acts so vicious they remain etched in the annals of American crime history. But what led them to their doorsteps? Why did these individuals, once ordinary citizens, engage in such heinous acts? The Tate LaBianca murders, as they would come to be known, were designed to ignite Manson's prophesied Helter Skelter. Followers, including Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Crankwinkle, and Leslie Van Houten, descended upon the homes of unsuspecting victims, committing unspeakable atrocities, all in the name of a man's twisted vision. To you, dear viewer, sitting perhaps in the safety of your home or in a bustling cafe, the brutality might seem distant, almost unreal. It's hard to fathom, isn't it? How one man's words could drive others to commit such acts. But therein lies the dark power of persuasion and the dangers of unchecked belief. Now, as the dust settled on those fateful nights, the entire nation was gripping with fear. Who were these murderers? And could they be caught before striking again? Our next chapter will unravel the investigation that followed. A manhunt like no other. How did the authorities connect the dots? And what role did luck play? Grab your detective hats, for we are about to dive deep into the pursuit of Manson's and his family. In the aftermath of the murders, Los Angeles was a city on edge. Rumors and speculations were rampant. With the brutality of the crimes, the LAPD was under immense pressure to apprehend those responsible. But with few leads and a case riddled with mystery, how could they pinpoint the culprits? It began, ironically enough, not with the investigation into the Tate LaBianca murders, but with a series of unrelated arrests. Manson and several members of his family were initially taken into custody on auto theft charges. The gravity of their more sinister actions was yet unknown. But, as they say, walls have ears, and within the confines of prison, one of Manson's followers would unwittingly unravel the tapestry of their crimes. Susan Atkins, one of the key players in the Tate murders, while detained, confessed her involvement to fellow inmates. The puzzle pieces started to fit. Imagine being a fly on the wall in that prison cell, hearing the chilling details of the murders firsthand. Can you feel the weight of that revelation? With Atkins' confession, the LAPD now had the lead they so desperately needed, and an intricate web of investigations ensued, culminating in Manson's and his family members being charged with the murders. But capturing them was only half of the battle. Ahead lay a trial that would become one of the most sensationalized and closely watched in American history. As we transition to the courtroom, ask yourself, how would you, as a juror, react to the harrowing testimonies? Brace yourselves, the trial of the century awaits. The courtroom was a buzz. The trial of Charles Manson and his followers drew media from all corners of the globe. Every detail, every statement, and every piece of evidence was scrutinized. But this was no ordinary trial. It was a spectacle, theater of the macabre, where Manson sought to control the narrative, even from his defendant's chair. From the outset, Manson's antic took center stage. He'd arrived with an X carved into his forehead, a symbol his devoted followers emulated outside the courthouse. His courtroom behavior was erratic. He'd shout, interrupt, and on one occasion even leaped at the judge. Such theatrics were all part of Manson's plan to sow chaos and maintain his grip on the narrative. As a viewer, think of the last courtroom drama you watched. The tension, the objections, the turning points. Now amplify that tenfold, and you might come close to the ambience of the Manson's trial. Witnesses took the stand, recounting harrowing tales of the Manson family's deeds and ideologies. But testimonies of the family members themselves proved most chilling. As the prosecution meticulously built its case, linking Manson's Helter Skelter ideology to the motive behind the murders, a question loomed large. Would the jury be swayed by Manson's manipulative tactics, or would justice prevail? Stick with us as the conclusion of this twisted tale approaches. A verdict is coming, and with it, the culmination of a saga that has both horrified and fascinated us. Are you ready for the final curtain? The weight of anticipation was palpable as the jury retired for deliberation. A case that had drawn international attention was nearing its end. The world awaited. Would Charles Manson and his followers be held accountable for their heinous crimes? After 9 days of deliberation, 9 days, the verdict was in. Manson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenkwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten were found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The courtroom, a stage for Manson's theatric for so long, was now the scene of his downfall. He and his co-defendants were sentenced to death, a sentence later commuted to life in prison after California temporarily abolished the death penalty in 1972. As you, our audience, process this culmination, consider the broader implications. The Manson case wasn't just about a series of murders. It was a stark reflection of the dark underbelly of a counterculture revolution. How did one man with a twisted vision exploit the vulnerabilities of a changing society? And what of Manson's legacy? Though imprisoned, his shadow loomed large, constant reminder of the dangers of unchecked charisma and influence. For many, Manson became emblematic of pure evil, a cautionary tale of the depths to which humanity can descend. It is essential to remember the victims whose lives were tragically cut short. Amid the media frenzy and the infamy, let's not forget the real cost of Manson's reign of terror. And as you go about your day, rest assured that in an age of unprecedented access to information, we are more prepared to recognize and challenge these manipulative figures in our lives. Or are we? Please, drop us that historical like, and thanks for watching it all the way. If you loved knowing about Manson's life and his crimes, click on the next video we selected for you. Keep seeking knowledge and stay curious, my friends.